Let's get to work. How are you been doing?
I think just the same as everybody else, one day at a time and sometimes one moment at a time.
Yeah, one 30 minutes at a time, you know. Yeah. I mean, I'm really lucky because I have this spokesperson gig that is COVID protected, but I know that there are other people that aren't. Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to help out where I can, food banks, doctors, give a little bit of cash through the old laptop.
How are you managing, like, mentally?
Even some of my friends that I feel are a little less obviously sensitive are checking in and saying, are you cool? Is everything cool? And I find that really, it is cool. They reach out and go, I'm going through some bad stuff too. I had a rough weekend, but I'm feeling better. So if you're having a rough weekend, just wait,
Yeah.
3 to 6 more months. But I'm doing more walks along, you're in the area, the Beltline
Mhm.
path. I'm not a big user of the phone when I'm walking in comparison to other people. Because I think in a way you want to be focused on maintaining your distance, the social distancing. And if you're on your phone and you're not looking up and you get in someone's personal space, that smile goes away pretty quick. There's
What's
someone
that?
on the path I keep running into, and she always seems to be on the phone with her mother, and it always seems to be a very intense, like her mom can't find the napkins. Like, they're in the bottom drawer. They're in the bottom, like, but why is she always doing it on the Beltline path? That's the part I'm like, I guess you got to get out and walk.
Like, your life must be kind of wild.
Yeah, not really, no.
Like, your Starbucks experience must be very different from everybody else's.
Is 95% of the time it's a positive experience. People saying, I know you. And there's nothing really wrong with that. Like, and people are like, does it bother you? And I'm like, no, because if it bothered me, I probably should have picked a different line of work maybe. But
For
you
me,
know what? Me showing up in a new mom's life probably that's a peak of their day, because it's a distraction from just like, how do I kill the next 5 minutes? Oh, there's the guy from TV. Oh God, now I got to kill the next 5 minutes of my life. I was playing blackjack down in Niagara Falls, and this dealer asked me, how did you get that job? And I said, well, it was an audition. Like, someone created this part. And he's like, no. How did you get it? And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, well, you write all the spots, right? I go, no, like a company writes it. And then I thought, in his mind, he thought that I was at home in front of my typewriter going, dear Canadian Tire, I've got this campaign and it's going to be amazing. And I have to be the star. And there's going to be like dozens of spots, and we're going to travel all around the world. And do you like it? And like, he was like, if I just come up with a really good idea, I can be a spokesperson too. And I'm like, it's not really how it works.
okay, so for people who don't know anything about the business, can you talk about just what,
Yeah.
like, what happened?
Well, 2012. My agent called up and said, we've got this audition for Canadian Tire. Do you want to do it? And I had done quite a few commercials before that. And I just actually missed out on in when you're an actor and you're doing commercials, you want to get a U.S. national just because it pays more money. And I was going to be in this U.S. national, and it disappeared. And when she called to say, can you go out for commercials, it almost felt like a breakup, where I was like, I'm not ready to date again. Like, I want to stay home. So a few months went by after that. And then this spot came out, and they were like, but you could be a spokesperson and it could affect, getting other commercial work. It turned out to be something bigger. I thought it was going to be like maybe 8 spots over 2 or 3 years, each year. So 24 spots. It became something completely insane. And it's been, 7 years. But the audition itself was just a 20-minute read. I was in my car underneath the Gardner Expressway, and I was interviewing myself as if I had already got the job and it was a year later. And I said to myself, what was it like? And I said, well, it was a really tough room. It was hard to make them laugh because I could sense that they'd seen so many people for this. And I said, but then one guy laughed, and then the next guy laughed, and then the director laughed. And that's when I knew I had them. And that's when I knew I had the job. And that's exactly what happened in the room. Like,
You had that talk with yourself before you went into the audition?
yeah, and then that's what was fabricated in the audition. Like, and when I made them laugh, it was almost like, guy went like, huh. Like, it was like the closest thing to not being a laugh. And then the other guy laughed, and then it kind of was like this little ripple effect, and they all laughed. And by the end, they were all like, "Oh!" It was like a boys' club of just like all these guys. Oh, this is good. This is good times. Okay, we'll see you later. And in my head, I was just like, I think I did it. I think I think I brought that vision to life. I think I got it. That night, I was in the park. My son was only like a year old. And I remember just kind of sitting there watching him play in the sandbox going, well, it's almost 5 o'clock. I haven't had a phone call.
Yeah.
Actually 7:30.
Really?
Yeah, my agent called, and I remember this because my son always had trouble sleeping, and I used to do the rock him to sleep and put him in the crib. And this time, like we weren't good at the like leave him crying stuff because it just destroyed our hearts. And I hated people that were like, we just leave him crying, and I'm like, I don't think you're a bad person, but I can't do it. Like, you know what I mean?
I did it. On that note.
Well, nice to see you.
Yeah, you've been the highlight of my day. Thank you.
Thank you. You've been the highlight of my day. When I'll see you on the streets soon enough, we shall hug. Stay safe. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's a peak of the day. I don't know what wild is, but it's not going to a Starbucks and like some mom going, my uncle loves you. People always think they're funny, and so they're always like, should I call you Gary? Well, 2012, remember when we could hug people? Remember those days? If I was to go on a speaking tour, this would be my story. But if I do get it, he did cry himself to sleep because I was so distracted. When I came out of the audition room, the room was full of clowns. They were dressed up as clowns. And I was like, what's happening? And they're like, it's a different spot. I'm talking about the brain, of course. Stimulating conversation. What am I, Dr. Tam? I'm barely an expert on what I do for a living. But do you not remember what it was like? I don't know. I think I always think like whenever I say something like that, I think I'm like an old woman, just going like, as dogs feel things, just like we do. And you're like, we don't know. We don't really, vets know, you know what I mean? But I don't know.